right, let's get this show on the road. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Torn Tuesday, your weekly dose of all things Hobbity goodness. We have been doing this show for, 659 weeks. Is that what that number was at the top of the show? I cannot
It
believe that.
it's kind of bonkers when you think about it in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes. I mean, in those terms, it boggles the mind. It really does.
Yeah, and I start to understand why certain podcasts have seasons and they put season 1, season 2.
Ha,
But
ha,
Cliff, you and I have never done that. We just keep going because we're here
true.
every week to give you guys the latest news on Middle Earth, be that movies, TV, books, games, gossip, the whole deal. And the chat room is already buzzing based on the title that they saw, saying, "Oh, this is going to be a respectful conversation." I'm sure it will be. But as always, your host with the
What?
most. You heard his voice. Of course, it is the producer and co-writer of Ringers, Lord of the Fans, a co-author of The People's Guide to J.R.R. Tolkien, and a Tolkien scholar who's been hired by many a production and games and things that we can't talk about, Mr. Clifford Broadway. How are you, Cliff?
Yes, thank you. Wow. Wow. You do the best introductions. Justin, I need to hire you to be my PR man. I really think so. It is lovely to see, again, this incredible collection of creative, generous people who come to visit us from Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and there you are, a Discord. Look at these wonderful people in our community. I welcome you all once again to Torn Tuesday. We're another year older, Frodo and Bilbo and I, because we all just had another birthday yesterday. I mean, not me. I mean, obviously, but my birthday's in late January. But it was the biggest Hobbit Day 2024 that we've seen in quite a while. Energized fandom all around the world, doing wonderful events. Not just our big event in Los Angeles, Griffith Park, which was attended by a really, really big crowd of people, wonderful cosplay, and outstanding food and beverage. So many people bought great stuff for our potluck picnic, but all around the world, Kelly Rice and other people in London and all across America, all across Europe and Africa and Asia, fans got together and had movie marathons, beautiful barbecue cookouts, and brought everyone together for a big Hobbity celebration. It was a very good Hobbit day. One person we need to shout out, special happy birthday on Sunday, September 22nd, to Sala Baker, the man behind the Iron Mask, the original Sauron. I mean, love you, Charlie Vickers, love what you're doing as Anatar, but our original bad boy was Sala Baker. He had a great birthday as well on September 22nd. Big
And on
shout out.
Saturday, it was David Winham's birthday. Winham.
Oh, yes, yes.
Our
That's right.
Faramir himself, and it's interesting. Faramir's been in the Tolkien fan discourse lately because there's been a couple threads that are really picking up momentum on asking fans if you could change anything about the Lord of the Rings movies, what would it be? And boys, Faramir at the top of the list. We're not going to get into that discussion
very much so
this week. We've got a few more weeks.
I'm down to get into that conversation any day. You drop that conversation, and I'll be picking it up. I'm happy to do that.
We have another hot button topic to discuss today.
Oh gosh, is it AI?
And Cliff,
it is not going to be talking about AI.
Everybody in the chat room is already nervous about how hot-headed you got last time.
Well, that's because a passionate man expresses himself passionately. That's the way of life. At least that's the way of my life. I'm a passionate man. What do you want? What do you want from me?
All right. Well, before we get into the main discussion that you see in the title, there were a bunch of announcements on Hobbit Day. And before we get going, I just want to say if any Lord of the Rings companies are doing stuff and you're announcing stuff, would you drop us a line, please? There's links on the website. You can find me, Justin, at theonering.net. Our DMs are wide open. But you know, it's
And
like I
so am
couldn't go
I.
to the
Quick Beam at theonering.net. I'm available too.
right.
Drop me a
Like,
note.
well, Quick Beam was at the picnic, but I was locked to my keyboard because there were so many announcements going on. I didn't leave the
Oh
house.
yeah. It was a busy day, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, I didn't leave the house because the announcements kept coming, and then there was a poster. Well, let's get into some of the announcements here. All right, let's
Let's
bring
do
it up.
that. Let's
First
do
off,
that.
happy birthday, Fiona Apple, the Rings of Power
Oh
warrior woman who did the
yes.
title song for season 1 of Rings of Power. She
Which
celebrated a
is
birthday
really
last week as
cool.
well. Now, Cliff.
She did. Guess who
Cliff,
else shares a birthday with Fiona Apple? Another wonderful creative person, Jim Henson. Taking my hat off. Happy birthday, Jim Henson and Fiona Apple. Big day for everybody. Really big day.
really? Jim
I
Henson's in
miss you,
there.
Jim. God, I miss you. We all miss you. We all miss you. Fiona, we're lucky enough to have you still here with us, making wonderful music like that amazing songcraft you did with
Cliff,
Bear McCreary. I
do
love
you
that. But I do miss Jim Henson. I really do.
Cliff, do you know the story, our history with Fiona Apple?
Yes,
You know what? You know what? It's
there's a bit
20.
of a story regarding our Oscar party. Yes, I
Yes,
know that. I
you know
know.
what?
Yeah.
It's been 20 years, and I think we can safely tell the story now,
Yeah, we
folks.
can. Yes.
We're not taking full credit here, but when Amazon
Not really.
When Amazon reached out to the OneRing.net before season 1 came out, way early, we let it be known that Fiona Apple was a big Lord of the Rings fan, so much so that she attended our Oscar party in 2004 for
That's
Return of the
right.
King. And
Yes, she did.
she asked for VIP tickets. Of course, she's Fiona Apple. I'm a big fan. We're all big fans. So Fiona Apple was in the VIP section of our Oscar party for Return of the King. She goes up to Zoanen, one of the co-founders of the website, and says, "Hi, I really like Elijah Wood. Can you introduce me to him?" And you know, this is the chaos. Everybody walked in with the Oscars. It's pandemonium. People are freaking out. Fans are taking pictures with all the Oscar winners. There's 25 Oscars walking around. Physical statuettes being held by the winners. And so the co-founder of our website introduced Fiona Apple to Elijah Wood. And wouldn't you know, they dated for 2 years. And we were there.
Gosh. Good golly, Miss. I can't even. All right. Good golly, Miss Molly. I just have to say that because, you know, I'm old and it's hilarious. But yeah, they met one another. And in so small an act, can the hand of destiny be changed? I use that line in many of my wedding ceremonies. I really do. Yeah, and they dated and they were the Hollywood it couple for a minute, weren't they?
So the One Ring played matchmaker for Fiona Apple 20 years ago. Fast forward to the season 1 pre-release, about a year before the season 1 came out. Amazon hit us up. Cliff and I had many conversations, as well as Green Dragon and so many other people. We let it be known to Amazon that Fiona Apple was a big fan, and she had attended our Oscar party. And if they were ever considering, I personally said this to Amazon, if they were ever considering a well-known artist for the soundtrack, please consider Fiona Apple. And wouldn't you know what happened? Wouldn't you know it?
Happened. It absolutely happened. And they called her people, and her people answered the call. And they said, "We want to introduce you to Bear McCreary. Come on in and do this wonderful end title song, this end credit title song of the Ringverse itself." What an opportunity. What an opportunity.
That's twice that we've played matchmaker for this wonderful woman, Fiona Apple. I'm still a big fan. We're still all Tolkien family, and we're happy you're here with us on this journey, and we're so happy that the One Ring played a small part in twice in your life to play matchmaker. And there you go. I don't think we've ever
One
told that
time-
story, Cliff. Have we ever told that
One-
story publicly?
I don't think we ever have. I mean, one time we were like, just matchmaker personally, and then this time, Justin, you were the matchmaker professionally, and that worked out beautifully. I love her voice, and I love her aesthetics. And when you're finding female vocalists, there's a short list of those performers who are so ephemeral, beautiful in the way that they interpret a song. And this takes a great deal of musicianship and vocal skill to be an interpreter of songs. I mean, Linda Ronstadt was the greatest song interpreter in the American Songbook. Pretty close. And then you have these ethereal voices that were brought in, like Enya, and even Bjork was brought in to do the song with Peter Jackson's trilogy, but she was about to go into labor. She was about to have a baby, and so she stepped aside at the last minute. But Fiona Apple, surprisingly, was not in, one of those female vocalists in the original trilogy. The Oscar went to Annie Lennox, who has the voice of an absolute angel. Annie Lennox is non-compare.
That's
But
right.
Here
So
we go.
Fiona
All these years
Apple
later,
carries
Fiona
on
Apple
that
bringing it.
excellent
Absolutely.
tradition of
Absolutely.
top craftsmanship, and we
She
have
brought
no
it.
time. All right,
She
moving on.
brought it.
Actual news from Hobbit Day 2024. First off, Tales of the
boy.
Shire gave a playable preview of the game, a 90-minute time limited game. Also,
Wasn't that cool?
Yeah, and I gave my code to Kelly, Happy Hobbit, because she's been so looking forward to this game. I'm like, Kelly, you deserve to play this. And also, Kelly got a brand new laptop, I think, last year with all her shill money for Rings of Power. And so she had a game. Also, Calliope Ryder, the producer of the game, who we've interviewed for the website, she was at TwitchCon in San Diego this weekend and gave a panel at TwitchCon on Sunday, and it was huge success. And of course,
Nice.
she tweeted everything. Also announced at the panel that duck with the helmet that we've been having fun with has
the armored
a name.
the armored duck that everyone fell in love with actually has a name. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. It's
And
great.
he is- and-
But
and,
how do we pronounce this name?
She is
Let's
called
debate.
Ladle. It's Ladle,
Lidle?
but no, it's Ladle.
Ladle? As
Yeah,
in
but it's
like a
misspelled.
soup ladle? Oh,
No.
I was going to say Lidle. I was going to do it the other way.
We don't
But the
know
way
how
you say
it's.
it,
Yeah, we
it
don't know
makes
how
more
it's
sense.
spelled, but at the panel it was pronounced Ladle.
ladle? Okay,
So-
but that is onomatopoeia. I mean, I'm not really. I mean, it's a homonym. That's the word I'm looking for. Ladle. It's a homonym for ladle. I love it. I wish I'd thought of that. That's very clever. Very clever.
And so Kelly and Matt, Nerd of the Rings, got a playthrough, and several other wonderful people. Kelly did a playthrough. Let me see if I can bring this up.
Bywater. See those birds up on that post? They seem to know where you want to go. Just follow them. Welcome to the neighborhood, Lysianthus. Do you know what this is? It's another lovely day in the Shire.
Oh,
I just want to say that during
so cute.
during all these live streams, there's no actual voices in the game.
Ah,
So,
that's the button I needed. Your map
both
stores
Kelly-
the history of the land while allowing you to track locations and met townsfolk. I think that's supposed to...
Well, that's a cool looking map. That's
It sure is.
unique to the game. It's reminiscent of a Tolkien kind of fantasy world, but it's not exactly what we saw in the movies. It's not exactly what we see in the books or illustrated by Tolkien or what's her name that did Maps of Middle Earth. This is a unique map of it. By the way,
You mean
it's so
Karen
charming.
Wynn Fonstad, you mean?
Yeah, Karen Wynn Fonstad. It's so charming that everybody who streamed the game basically created their own voices for all the characters. I'm telling you, just watching the live streams of the game is probably just as fun as playing the game, because your favorite creators are making up voices for all these different hobbits, and it's so charming.
Or no. Townsfolk you've already met. Pinning the location will call birds to guide you there. If you have a tail tracked, simply remove the pin and track the tail location again. Ah. So that's like quests, I think.
So yeah, the game has little
There's
quests
a
and
birdie.
things like that.
So if I go straight,
This is the green
the
dragon.
green dragon.
Oh, I
Wait,
love
before
it.
I go into the green dragon, I want to see what this is. Is this my front door? I suppose I'll need to get it fixed up sometime. In the meantime, I should look around for another entrance. Oh, I already did that.
I love
I
how
saw
they
another
walk.
sparkle over here. What was this?
That's so cute.
It's not sparkly anymore. I missed my chance with the sparkle.
Oh, go in. There was an open door right there. Oh, she
Hi,
missed it.
buddy. Show me something. Yeah, got a very pretty tail. Okay. Not going the right way. This way? Yes.
The Shire just looks beautiful. This
Oh,
game
I see. They'll be on their signposts.
You know-
is well baked.
I feel like
this-
I'm leaving town.
This is so
Fly, butterflies.
interesting.
Birdies.
To
Ooh, the Great East Road.
this just satisfies the itch of, oh, I want to wander around the Shire. Oh, look, that's the Great East
Can I
Road.
talk to you?
It's so cool.
Easy to trip over the cobblestones. You know, when I was in Ireland in the winter in Dublin, and there were cobblestones, I found it much easier to slip and slide all over them.
Ah,
Ooh, very nice garden. The village square. Piggy, 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 piggy.
I love you, Kelly. That's so cute.
The Burrows' shop and home. Look at these fine textiles. What's through here? The pond?
Well, anyway, you can watch the whole 90-minute thing at on YouTube. Kelly, Happy Hobbit has a walkthrough. Nerd of the Rings has a walkthrough. Just search for Tales of the Shire playthrough or walkthrough. It's a 90-minute demo. It was an invite only. And Finrod says, I want to raise pigs and sheep. Yeah, I do too. This game looks so much fun. Looks so much fun. What else was
It really
announced
does look
yesterday?
super fun. Yeah, I
Cliff.
love this.
Cliff, talk to me about this poster.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Oh, and I just lost my light. It'll come back in just a second. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. This
We don't
poster.
need to see you. We're looking at a poster.
Oh, well, okay, that's good. But there was probably a loud sound in the background.
Becomes legend. Cliff, is this a quote from the books, or is that a quote made up in the movies?
No, that is just a marketing quote from the marketing department. That's all that is.
No, I believe in the prologue of Fellowship
History
of the Ring.
becomes legend.
Doesn't Galadriel say, "And the ring was lost"? And history.
But that wasn't your question. That was not your question. Your
Is it
question
in the
was, does
book
it
or
come
is
from
it
the
in the movie?
books? I answered, it's not from the books. That was the only question you asked. That is not from the books. But yes, it mirrors an analog. It's a direct analog to Galadriel's dialogue, but it's not from the books. But I love this unique design. The powerful male characters, her father, and the man
Helm
that she would have been,
Hammerhand.
Helm Hammerhand, and the man Wulf, who Hera would be betrothed to. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see how the story plays itself out. The men are in these huge symmetrical pyramid poses right behind her, and Hera comes out in clear, colored focus right in the foreground. It is a great design. It's very interesting, and
Cliff, I've got some
just-
questions from the chat room. Are you
I
ready?
really think it's really cool. Yeah,
Okay,
really
all
very
right,
cool.
All right, number one, is Hera the main character in this movie?
You're looking at a tripod, kind of like Futurama. Think, Leela, Fry, and Bender. It's three characters who are the triad of the main lead characters in the story. I know that was a terrible analogy, but think of characters being presented as these three are the main leads, and you're always going to see them in the marketing everywhere. Is
All right.
she the main character? Yes, she's the main point of view character. I understand from the interviews that Matt, Nerd of the Rings, has done with the writers. I understand she's the main point of view character, but you can tell that the marketing is giving us three characters as the main set.
And I want to follow this up by saying we have been exclusively reporting for 3 years now that internally Warner Brothers called this project the Shield Maiden Show. So
Oh, wow, they did.
don't
Now,
get it
let me ask
twisted.
you.
It's called the
No, no,
Shield
no.
Maiden Show internally. Like, this
Yeah,
is
okay, I'm
her movie.
not
She is the
disputing
lead.
that at all.
Uh,
But look
question
at the
from
way the
chat
images are
room.
presented
Cliff,
to you.
Is her horse one of the Maris?
Yes, I already answered that in the chat. Yes, Otaku, I'm directly thinking that they will present her horse as an ancestor of Shadowfax, one of the Meras. And as I was just saying, Justin, because you yourself have a great deal of experience in marketing, they're marketing those three characters as a triad. Now, also, did you notice the logo, the size of the original Lord of the Rings logo?
Oh, wow.
Let me ask you your opinion, Justin. Would you have thought that logo would have been larger? The Lord of the Rings. Would that have?
No, I thought it would have
Would
been
you thought that would have been a
smaller.
larger?
No,
Okay.
I thought it would have been
Okay.
smaller. Cliff, a
Okay.
third question from the chat,
Hmm.
well, and people have been asking, what does it mean Peter Jackson's presents at the top?
The same thing that it means when it says Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. They're trying to put the producer as a name above the title of the project itself. Literally, it is not Tim Burton's film. It's a Henry Selick film. Everybody knows that Nightmare Before Christmas was created and directed by Henry Selick. But in terms of marketing, it's another marketing ploy, and it's as old as the hills. They want to take their lead producer and they want to put them up front, set they're like really at the tip top. And so it's Peter Jackson presents. You know, that's the style of bringing familiarity to the brand. Oh, you're familiar with Peter Jackson's name. You're familiar with the brand he's created with his 6 films. Well, let's put his name at the top.
Let me ask you this, Cliff. They only recently, in the last few months, said that Peter Jackson was attaching his name to this. Do you think this movie needed Peter Jackson's name attached to be successful?
No, it doesn't need Peter's name attached to it. It just needs the Lord of the Rings attached to it. But it helps. And in terms of them being
Does it?
a little bit, do you not think that they're hedging off their nervous bets? Don't you think the studio is trying to hedge off their nervousness by saying, we're going to add this and we're going to add that. We'll add this logo and his name so that they can hedge their bets to bring in more familiarity with people who aren't immediately familiar. That's the game of marketing.
I
That's the
mean,
game.
familiarity is that big old Lord of the Rings right there. If you're going to put Peter Jackson's name on it, his last 2 projects were Peter Jackson's Mortal Engines and Peter Jackson's
which he didn't direct,
and the Peter Jackson Steven Spielberg movie,
which he didn't direct.
right? And he didn't direct this either. So,
well, no, his last 2 movies were actually documentaries. One about World War I veterans, and another one about the Beatles and their process of making an amazing album in 1969. The same
Emmy
week
winner.
I was born.
Why didn't they put Emmy winner
winner.
Peter Jackson? Well, I guess they could have put Oscar winner Peter Jackson presents.
Think about it. When he wins a Grammy, he'll be 3 steps into an EGOT. He's got the Oscars, he's got the Emmys, and if he gets a Grammy, he'll be, that's EGO. He'll only need to get into Broadway production
Fran
and get
Walsh
a
and
Tony.
Philippa Boyens got the Grammy for writing the song with Annie Lennox. So the producing team, Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens, Peter Jackson, do have that Grammy.
You're kidding. Are you telling me that Annie Lennox's Grammy also has Peter Jackson's name on it? I don't think that counted.
I think it only has Philippa.
You count as an EGOT when you receive the award yourself.
All right.
Okay,
well,
you've got to
it's
receive the
interesting.
award
If they're
yourself.
going to put Peter Jackson's name on it, why don't they put Oscar winner Peter Jackson? He certainly earned that.
Do you know what's funny about that phrase, Oscar winner? it's the type of thing that will change your life, but it also changes the way that you're talked about when you're gone. When your obituary is printed in the New York Times, the first sentence will not be popular filmmaker Peter Jackson. It will say multiple Oscar winner Peter Jackson. That is the opening line of your obituary. That's
It
literally
should be the
how
opening
it is.
line of
That's how it
this
is.
marketing campaign from Oscar winner Peter Jackson.
I don't dispute that. I do not dispute
Okay,
that at all.
if you're gonna put Peter's name on it, put the Oscar on there. Remind people that he won an Oscar for this stuff. George
get it.
Lucas never got an Oscar.
His wife did.
That's right. Anyway, moving
His
on.
wife did. Yeah.
That wasn't the only announcement for War of the Rohirrim.
No.
Warhammer.
Oh, these are cool. These are so
tabletop-
cool.
The tabletop
Ooh.
game Warhammer announced an official collaboration. Cliff, I don't play tabletop games. You are our expert board game
hardcore
editor.
I'm the ultimate
So tell
board
me
game
what
nut.
Warhammer is, because all I know about Warhammer is Henry Cavill is making a movie with Amazon about it.
Do you know what? Here, I've got Henry Cavill on speed dial. Hey, Henry, can you explain for us real quick a synopsis of Warhammer 40K? No, you know what? I wish I had Henry Cavill on speed dial. I would invite him over for game night tonight, and we
You
would play all
interviewed
these
him.
great games.
You were one of his first interviews. Remember Comic-Con?
I was
We
one of his first
interviewed him?
interviews. He's awesome. He's total nerd boy. I mean, you think he's a big old jock meathead, but he's a total nerd, and I love him for being super
You're
nerdy.
getting sidetracked. You're not answering the question.
All right,
What is
here's the
Warhammer?
answer. I'm just having fun. Oh, come on, Gandalf. It's just a bit of fun.
By the way,
all right.
War of the Rohirrim is getting merch before Rings of Power.
It is crazy when you think about that. War of the Rohirrim, really, real toys, merchandise. I actually have a pin. Somebody gave me a beautiful enamel
Anyway, I'm
pin.
getting sidetracked. Tell me what Warhammer is.
Warhammer is a tabletop miniatures battle game. It is a war game where you're reconstructing great battles on the battlefield between space marines and these other crazy characters that are in this universe, this science fiction universe, which is like Dune and Arrakis hopped up on steroids times 50. There are combat modes. It's like redoing a combat simulation on a big tabletop battlefield, and the miniatures go around from building to building and place to place with ships, armored tanks, and soldiers that you get to hand paint. One half of the hobby is playing the game. The other main half of the hobby is sitting there like Grand Moff Tarkin, because he used to do this with his Napoleonic War miniatures. Remember all that footage of Peter Cushing when he was like, oh, I'm painting my little horses, and here's all my French soldiers and my Austrian soldiers and my British soldiers. So after you do hours and hours of painting your models, you get these miniature scale models onto a large platform, and you fill it with obstacles, roads, entrances, exits, where you can stage a huge battle, and you use this enumerating system and rules to calculate success or failure in how you and your opponent battle each other. Warhammer is a huge, huge franchise, and I'm interested in what Mr. Cavill is doing in developing and working on an entertainment property based on this IP.
Is it a dice
Very
game?
interesting.
So you roll dice to determine
Yep.
who wins each fight?
Yep. Just like Grand Moff Tarkin. Peter Cushing you put your little Napoleon armies and your little German armies and your French armies, and you roll dice and use rulers like hard yardsticks so you can measure the distance. Did my cannons hit with cannon fire far enough across the river to hit those miniatures over there? Calculations, tables, roll the dice, and if you're lucky, you did. And you hit them, and and you start clearing the field of battle. That's how you play the game.
Well, this is
That's
a
exactly how you play.
complete starter set. So if you don't know Warhammer like I do, this is a complete starter set. This will be out for Christmas this year. It comes with a 76-page rules manual, a
76 pages? That's very small for most Warhammer reference material.
A
because they
48 page. Hold on, I'm not done yet.
endless.
76-page rules, 48-page scenarios and profiles booklet, plus a couple structures from Edoras, 24 warriors of Rohan, 24
Oh.
Dunlendings, and
Oh, cool.
of course
Cool.
Wolf
Cool.
and Haleth and Hama and General Targ and a quick reference guide and houses and a double-sided playmat and a ranged
Nice.
ruler. It comes with a ruler, like you were just describing. So yeah, you get the whole package, and this will be out. 48-page scenarios and profiles booklet.
Yeah, that helps you build and play out battle scenarios. In the chat, anonymous girl asking, how much is it with the skull emoji? Well, this is an introductory pack, so it's probably going to be more reasonably priced, I would guess. But we don't have a price on this, do we?
No, we don't. Yeah, it just
Okay,
been
not yet.
announced. It was shockingly announced. I hadn't heard anything about it. Other news
Yeah.
from Hobbit Day: official Warner Brothers social accounts reawaken. They kicked off the Hobbit movie account is back. The Lord of the Rings movie account is back. Also announced Lord of the Rings and Hobbit in concert will be at the Pasadena Civic Center in March of next year. You can get your tickets now.
Great venue. That's a great venue. I'm going. Are we going together? Or wait, why don't we organize a fan night where we get a bunch of fans who want to go together?
That sounds
That'd be
great.
cool.
But Cliff, on Hobbit Day, which is Bilbo and Frodo's birthday,
Yes.
nothing from Amazon about Harfoots. Only posts about Sauron.
Yep. Well, he is the Lord of the Rings, and he's their main bad boy. So, yeah, I get
Cliff,
that.
do you think that Nori the Harfoot birthday is the same as Bilbo's and Frodo's?
No, how could that be? That would be too much of a coinky-dink. I don't know about that. Did they say that? Did they say that?
I don't know.
Did
I'm
they
asking,
say that
I'm just
Nori's
asking
birthday?
questions. I'm just asking questions.
No, we have no earthly idea what Nori's birthday is. We do not know.
All right.
I
Moving on.
doubt that she knows.
I made an error. I should not have called this a podcast, but our friend Anna Maria has started her own chat show, as they call it in the UK. It's the first Tolkien chat show. Over here, we would call it a Tolkien talk show. And her first interview is with Jed
What'd you get in
Brophy.
trouble for, Jed?
Oh, that is so cool.
Makers of Middle Earth. So that just started.
She is so great. She's an incredible talent, and I'm so glad to see her launching this new talk show. Really cool stuff. I say well done, and congratulations, Anna Maria, on starting this new show. It's fabulous. Really fabulous.
Red Carpet Tours organized a bunch of fans to go to Hobbiton for Hobbit Day, as of course you should. And they went to the real Hobbiton in Matamata, and they went to there's the photo up where people in cosplay got to run with their Bilbo's contract. Cliff, I really need to do this. I really need to.
Do you know, let's plan for next year then. Let's plan for next September to be in New Zealand, but, you know, we'll have to have someone in Griffith Park to host the picnic in LA, but I would love to be there for that. Oh, it's so perfect.
But
so
Cliff,
perfect.
tell me about the group of people that showed up for your Griffith Park adventure.
I did not expect so many costumes. I really did not expect so many wonderful costumes. Even better, there was the reappearance of a delightful school teacher. He's a local school teacher here in LA, and he is known around Southern California as the Singing Gandalf. And he is known famously for appearing over the soft rolling hills with his guitar, softly playing his acoustic guitar and singing beautiful Tolkien melodies. Michael Belach returned to join us after years of not being with us. And he met another gentleman, another wonderful elderly gentleman who was dressed as Eorwain Ben Adar, whom the elves call him, but that's Tom Bombadil. And we got a lot of people with this amazing bit of photography and some great videos of Tom Bombadil and Gandalf going off to a quiet patch of the forest to talk and talk Middle-earth secrets with each other. There were so many elves. There was one fellow, I think his name was Al, and he had full-on plate mail armor. He was wearing 55 pounds of plate mail armor and had an axe. It was a terrific costume. There were performance cosplay. There was best out of the closet cosplay. We just threw something together. We had Caroline Knight, who is a very famous seamstress and cosplayer. Caroline Knight showed up with her new baby boy. Her and her husband brought their beautiful baby. There's Michael. There's Michael Belach. There's the guy who was in the armor. But you guys remember me wearing that patchwork Bilbo Baggins bathrobe, better known as a dressing gown. And Caroline was the original creator of that cosplay. She made it all for me from scratch, and we got to see her there, and they brought unbelievable cupcakes and desserts and deviled eggs, and believe it or not, I'm going to quote Frodo right now. Here's my favorite Frodo quote from the movie. Roast chicken? So yes, they brought roast chicken and endless amounts of food and beverages, and I cannot tell you how much fun people had over a very relaxing day. Oh, that's Stella, one of my best friends. Stella had homemade vegan lembas bread. And there's Gollum. He was in the little baby carriage. Totally fun. There was our vinyl banner. And,
Anyway,
I gotta say that the turnout was somewhere north of 100, maybe 125, 135 people throughout the whole day. And we were there for a full day. There were games, lawn games, trivia games, great prizes. We had so many prizes to give away. We satisfied that itch. And you could call that the community itch. Really satisfying to bring community together with so much camaraderie and good food and goodwill. It was a wonderful experience. Really was.
I'm sorry I missed it, but I had to do a bunch of posts because the news was coming fast and furious, but I'm so glad everybody had a good time. Speaking of having a good time, Cliff.
Oh, dear. What?
Look at this. Just posted.
Oh, look at that. I haven't seen that yet.
This is Cynthia Ade Robinson posted this wonderful Sauron. Wait, that's Morgoth's helmet.
That's Morgoth's crown. And you know what? I'm sorry, Mac Juice. If I made that big mistake of calling it plate mail when it's not plate mail, it is a very big common misconception. Thank you guys for forgiving me and for the gentle correction. That's why we rely on you. We do rely on you for that.
Look at the quality of that chocolate. But why is
that chocolate or is that a collectible coin?
It's chocolate. She put the chocolate emoji on it. It's a chocolate in a case, in a nice red velvet case.
That looks delicious.
Cynthia Ade Robinson and other actors are currently in New York City, as is this Telltale TV says, big news for Rings of Power fans. I'll be doing a mid-season interview for Telltale TV. Charlotte Branstrom, Alex Dissenhoff, Charlie Vickers, Charles Edwards, Ben Walker, Robert Arameo, Markella Kavanagh, Cynthia Ade Robinson. And he was asking for questions. And then Varking on Reddit earlier this weekend said, drop your questions for the cast and comments, and you might get it answered at a secret upcoming Rings of Power event. And then this morning, someone at the OneRing.net, we cannot say who, posted this wonderful photo of an overcast day in the Big Apple with fellow fans here. So as we speak right now, there is a Rings of Power event going on with all of your favorite, most of your favorite influencers. So I don't know what it's about, but expect some awesome content in the next several days.
Yeah, this is a secret to me. I don't understand what it is or what's going on, but I'm very intrigued by all this.
Very intrigued. So, shout out to Varking for being able to post this early and get questions from the fans on Reddit, and other news organizations like Telltale TV that were that put it out on Twitter or X and said, hey, what are some questions? So there you go. There's some other folks, I'm sure. We don't know anything.
I don't. You might be keeping secrets from me.
No,
Justin.
I'm
I don't know.
just reading the tea leaves. Just reading the tea leaves.
You're so funny. I appreciate that. Well,
all I know is Amazon. I don't need to go to all the events, but if you could send me that chocolate, can you have my address, Amazon? Just send me some chocolates like this. I just want one or two.
Well,
I
hello.
still have.
Hello, you do. Hello, Amazon. I'm still here, and I would love to be invited to some of these events. I haven't been invited to any of these events all year long. I haven't come to London twice. 2 events. I didn't come. I'm still here, like a grandfather clock in the house that you can still hear in the distance, bringing you the news, chiming in every now and then. I personally would not say no to coming to do one of these wonderful events and doing delicious interviews and giving you some interesting content. That's what we're here for. But be that as it may, the chocolate sounds like it should be on sale. If that's not just a single promotional item, I'll kick myself in the derriere. That chocolate should be on sale around the world.
I know.
Fans would go nuts for it. They would buy it
I still
everywhere.
have my Rings of Power Season 1 Kit Kats in the
that.
fridge. My Kit Kats are still in the fridge. They haven't melted, even through this heat wave.
You're hilarious. But when we have a 112-degree heat wave in Southern California, you have to put
I
your
even
candies
kept
in the
my
fridge.
popcorn box.
Oh, that's perfect. I love that. I love popcorn.
Yeah, my ring pop melted, though. My ring pop did melt.
Do you know what's an interesting recipe? Sprinkle some chocolate chips on your popcorn so you can get that chocolatey drizzle flavor of chocolate on your fresh popcorn. Yum. Life hack right here. I just give you a life hack.
Chat. I need an Adar plushie to put pins in when I'm sewing. I mean, spoiler. Wait, no, we're not doing that.
Wait, hold on.
All right.
Before we go on, let's make one side comment. Since you and I are talking about this all the time, what is it with the lack of merch? The lack of plushies or chocolate bars, or pins or buttons.
It's really
What's the lack
simple.
of merch? What's it all about?
It's really simple, Cliff. Middle Earth Enterprises is the exclusive rights holder of all merch. Amazon cannot make movies, and they cannot make video games, and they cannot make toys without Middle Earth Enterprises being involved. So those two companies need to work something out. They need to work something out. That's all. Hopefully they'll get worked out
hopefully
soon.
they will. Well, there was a tweet that went viral today, and we're talking thousands of likes and retweets, where someone said one thing holding back Rings of Power from having larger scale cultural impact is that there's no 4K release of home video and there's no merch. And I'm
no
like,
extended editions.
Yes.
And
yeah,
BTS,
without showing behind the scenes, extended scenes.
BTS
it's just not there.
is the big thing. I think this show will have a second life if we got all the documentaries that we desperately want. All right, our main story tonight is something that Cliff hates talking about, but I have to. We have to talk about it because it's coming whether you like it or not.
Oh gosh,
it's coming like, whether you like it or not.
You know, the train is coming down the tracks, and you can't stop it. So yeah. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about AI for half a minute. Here we go.
Well, before we talk about AI, let's let the original director of The Hobbit talk about AI. Guillermo del Toro says repugnant.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I clicked on the story.
Oh, I read this today earlier. Really?
And
it is repugnant. It is repugnant.
Cliff,
they're going to be using generative AI.
Hold on, I'm not. Wait, hold on, Cliff.
Well, there it is. I know the story. I read this today.
They're bringing back a movie critic in
who
AI
passed away.
form.
Yeah, he passed away, and they're bringing back an AI version of him.
But Cliff, Look at that name.
Brian Sewell. Are you related?
Yeah.
Distant? Distant cousins?
Yeah, it's the talk of our family group chat today. Let's just say that. Our group chat amongst the Sewell family is talking about this. Brian Sewell.
How far back to the UK can you do? Are you going to do a genealogy test and see if you can go back and trace the family back to the UK?
I am never doing any of those DNA tests because absolutely not.
Okay.
Because that spells trouble for the future. And if you guys are reading up on the 23andMe situation, anyway, we're not going to get into that.
Yeah.
So I have a personal connection. So Cliff, you know I'm fairly pro AI, and I have been on the show, and so I'm starting. This is the first time where it's hit close to home. It's hitting my family now, my distant family, but my dead family member is now going to be brought back to life in print, and will be reviewing new movies based on his lifetime of literary criticism.
Guess what? It makes no freaking sense to me, because the AI will not see the new play, will not see the new movie, and will not see the new art exhibit. So how can the AI proffer an opinion that's absurd? It's all completely absurd. It's
all right,
ridiculous.
Let's go back to Guillermo del Toro.
AI has demonstrated that it can do semi-compelling screensavers. That's essentially that. The value of art is not how much it costs and how little effort it requires. It's how much would you risk to be in its presence. How much would people pay for those screensavers? Are they gonna make them cry because they lost a son, a mother, because they misspent their youth? No. AI has demonstrated that it can do.
Wow. He really does match my personal opinion on this.
And what is that?
Generative AI can be useful for helping people doing laborious tasks like creating code, programming code, stuff like that. It is not at all useful when applied in such a ridiculous fashion that you're going to create the dead guy's avatar, comes back now as an AI avatar of the dead critic, and he's going to start producing. And this is for the Evening Standard. Let's talk for a moment about the profile of this classic British media outlet, this newspaper. If you had respect for a newspaper at one point in time, the newspaper business has been suffering so much, that's another conversation, for so many years. But
well,
my
Cliff,
opinion
AI
is that
this photo.
I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna finish my thought, please. The idea is really that you cannot use generative AI to recreate the human consciousness that is necessary to be in the presence of art. The way that Del Toro just described it, what price would you pay to be in the presence of the art? Much less, what part of your personal soul are you expressing, your personal wisdom, your personal spirit, and your experiences, your holistic experience as a human being comes into play when you are going to assess, contemplate a work of art, and then say something about it in the form of a critique. No generative AI can do that. It's ridiculous.
This is Henry Cavill as Feanor, created in an AI.
Oh, lordy. Okay, and?
You're not sold?
Am I supposed to be impressed by any AI mashup of a celebrity and some other visual element?
All right. Michael Bay on AI. It doesn't create, it just imitates. And it will create a whole bunch of lazy people. So to all the original creators out there, have no fear.
Very intrigued by that. To answer you, Finrod, in the chat, yes, I completely inhaled all of Troll Hunters and all the Tales of Arcadia and Three Below and Wizards. I love everything that Del Toro does. in
R.J.
animation. I
McCready
love it
says
all.
this
Love
is
it.
perfect Feanor casting. Perfect Feanor casting.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no to Mr. Henry Cavill being cast as Feanor. I would not say no to that. I wouldn't.
Okay.
As
Do
long
you
as
have
it's the real human being, as long as we don't get confused here, as long as it's not the AI generated Henry, but the real Henry, the one
All
that I
right.
stood with and talked to on microphone once in an interview. Right. Okay.
Michael Bay on AI. He is he
Uh-oh.
is
Katie
anti.
says it's got to be Lee Pace. Lee Pace is the one and only Feanor.
No,
Okay. How can he be
Lee
Thranduil
Pace
and
is already
Feanor in the same
Thranduil. I'm
world?
sorry, we already
He's
got
already
Lee
Thranduil.
Pace.
Okay.
Oscar winner James Cameron has joined the Stability AI Board of Directors, according to Deadline.
Well, this was inevitable. This feels inevitable. What do you think, Justin?
It was only a year ago when AI was thought to be a dirty word during the strikes, and Cameron cited his 1984 classic The Terminator about artificial intelligence that becomes sentient and wreaks havoc on mankind, and last year said, I warned you guys in 1984, and you didn't listen.
Oh, Skynet.
And now,
Skynet is around the corner.
and now he's on the board of directors of Stability AI. Cliff?
Oh dear. Yeah, it feels like this was inevitable because more than he's a filmmaker, James Cameron, a lot like his buddy George Lucas, is a tech nerd. And he is completely hypnotized and enraptured by the newest tech. That's how these guys are.
He's a tech geek.
Yeah.
Big Jim, don't miss. I'm the biggest fan of Michael Bay. I'm the biggest fan of Big Jim
Ugh.
Cameron. Avatars can do no wrong. He consistently delivers. And the fact
Yes,
that
he does.
his
That's true.
opinion in the last
But-
year, in 1 year, has gone from I warned you guys about AI to 1 year later, he's joined the board of one of the leading AI image creation companies. Stability AI does image creation.
Well,
Hold that thought, Cliff, because we're not done. Andy Serkis has teased a new
Oh,
project
dear.
featuring AI characters as he describes the growing invasive tech as another form of magic that is frightening people. Quote, Andy Serkis, another form of magic that is frightening people. He is on board with AI. He is using AI for feature project films. And he is the director of The Hunt for Gollum, which was casually announced by Ian McKellen to be a 2-film project.
I'm going to make a quote from the Instagram account of Animation Workers United, and I'm there supporting the animation industry workers in this town who are about to get together and have their first pre-strike union meetings and to make demands for new contracts. But I'm going to read my thoughts because they're the exact thoughts of this person. And again, this is Animation Workers Ignited, not United. Animation Workers Ignited on Instagram. Okay. The quoting Mr. Cameron, the convergence of these two totally different engines of creation, CGI and AI, will unlock new ways for artists to tell stories in ways we could have never imagined. Unquote for James Cameron. And here's my response to that, which is their exact response. It sounds fancy until you remember that generative AI is theft. It is theft. Generative AI is theft. Period. No bones about it. And it serves only to uplift those with money and power. Not any of those with skill are uplifted by this technology. There is no advancement of humanity with generative AI, only stagnation. Someone throw a muffin at this guy. Okay, so that's how I feel about that. Now you know. Now you know how I feel. Andy, we should maybe have a conversation, and maybe Andy can enlighten us. I would love to invite, and I deeply encourage, Andy Serkis to come and talk with us so that he can enlighten us on his approach to this. It might be time for me to stop being so prickly and easily defensive about it, and maybe open up my listening so I can hear what Andy is thinking, because he himself is a respected creative powerhouse in motion capture, certainly in motion capture acting, and in all the work and advocacy that Andy has done throughout his career for motion capture artists. And I really admire and respect him. So if there's a misunderstanding, maybe there's
There's no misunderstanding. The future is coming.
Dude, there's a big gulf
future-
of a misunderstanding between us and what's happening over there. There's a big, wide gulf
you
of
guys need
misunderstanding.
to get on board. Look,
Perhaps.
people. I think fandom needs to accept it. What is it? Seven phases
Okay.
of grief. You
Okay.
need to accept that AI is
Okay.
here. It's
Okay.
coming. It's growing, and now our creative leaders in the Tolkien world are using AI. We reported 2 weeks ago, or was it 3 weeks ago, that Amazon Games has announced that they're using AI
That's true.
to develop stories for their big games. And guess what license
Okay.
they have for a big MMO game? Lord of the Rings.
Yes, I know.
They're doing a giant
I know.
MMO RPG of Lord of the Rings. Amazon Games it's meant to compete with Final Fantasy Online and World of Warcraft, and the company has admitted that they're using AI. And Cliff, haven't we been reporting for the last 3 years that there have been whispers? We have no conclusive proof, but there have been whispers that AI is in use at Amazon Studios. We know for a fact that they have AI words to storyboard. You put in the script and it storyboards your show.
Well, there goes all those storyboard artists who've just lost jobs because of that. Okay. They're really talented people. They really are.
Not only is AI coming into Lord of the Rings, I think it's already here, man.
Do you know what? The Numenorians should be worried not about the elves coming to take their jobs, but the AI coming to take their jobs. Rebecca Salinas Lopez in the chat says, it's all about money in the end, guys, whether we like it or not. If it's about lowering costs, the only hope is that consumers stop consuming every little thing that they throw at them that has no quality. Excellent point, Rebecca. Excellent point. But to that point, Justin, you know this is true, and you will concede that movie making, the business of making television and motion pictures, is a very high risk, high gamble, high cost affair. All of it. It's very high cost and a very high risk to invest and to get something done. So it is not surprising when you're looking at economic forces in play and looking at how bad the production world is right now and how badly things are going for productions, especially here in Southern California. It is not surprising that they're looking for ways to cut costs. I get that. However,
I don't think
you're not going to get the results that you think you're going to get.
No, it's not cutting costs.
Wait, hold on. Didn't you just say they don't have storyboards artists anymore? They got the thing making storyboards, so they don't need to hire 7, 8 different artists. That saves them money from hiring 8 people. HR department is like, we just saved a ton of money.
We haven't even started talking about episode 6, but so far in one and a half full seasons of Rings of Power, do you feel that maybe the shot placement? I've complained about the shot construction on Rings of Power.
You mean in terms of cinematography?
In terms of cinematography, I believe. Look, Alex Dizenhoff and the whole team are doing wonders with the camera, but the storyboards that drive the camera placement, the storyboards that drive the shot construction, seem AI.
Might be so. I
but also let me.
I don't know.
Cliff, did you like Massive? 20 years ago, Peter Jackson and the team at Weta Digital received Oscars and patents and awards for the Massive animation system, which allowed AI to tell different army warriors where to walk, when
NPCs,
to collide.
The NPCs were in battle with each other, and the massive software was able to calculate all the factors of movement,
That's AI.
topography, and weapons
And
and
interaction and clashing.
and interactions. Yes.
So why
Yes.
weren't you angry at AI back then?
Oh, come on. The way you framed the question, Justin, is intellectually dishonest. Let's just talk about this, okay?
Finrod had the right answer, though. Massive still had to be programmed by humans and
That's
finessed.
exactly right.
And finessed
Yes,
by humans.
and it had to be directed by a person named Peter Jackson, who had a human concept about the way the composition should be structured and built. So yeah, it still had to be handled by humans. Interesting point right here. The restart point. You're making an interesting point at the restart point. There will be a Dune-like rejection of AI one day. This is a reference to the world of Dune that Frank Herbert created, where learning machines were outlawed and destroyed because that was called the Butlerian Jihad. He's making a very specific Dune reference. And the Butlerian Jihad is a point in human future, our future as humans, where the thinking machines had taken over and had controlled and subjugated. We're talking about the subjugation of human beings, or the thinking machines were in the service of powerful overlords who were using them to take over and subjugate other civilizations. And all of humankind had the Butlerian Jihad, and they fought, all humans fought against the AI, the thinking machines, and destroyed them all. That's why when you watch Dune, there are no computers. That's why they have human mentats, who are the human computers, who do all the heavy calculations. And of course, there's the drug, the use of the spice, which allows the Spacing Guild to calculate massive quantities of space travel to fold space. So I really appreciate that reference to the Butlerian Jihad. And you know what? That's what makes great science fiction.
Well,
Futurists
but we're
who
talking
can predict
about
the future
fantasy.
and warn you about it. Really give you the warning.
Let me play
ahead of
this
time.
clip again from Guillermo del Toro, because I have a specific question for you, Cliff.
Okay, what do you got, Julia?
Semi-compelling screensavers.
Okay.
That's essentially that. The value of art is not how much it costs and how little effort it requires. It's how much would you risk to be in its presence. How much
agree.
do people pay for those screensavers? Are they gonna make them cry because they lost a son, a mother, because they misspent their youth? No. AI has demonstrated.
Okay.
AI cannot make you feel, or can it? Cannot make you feel if you've lost your son or your mother, or you know, and the human emotions, as you were talking about, the human condition cannot be replicated by AI.
True.
One of the, and I didn't realize this until today, but one of the common criticisms we hear and see in our Discord, on message boards, in YouTube videos, and in YouTube comments, and on Twitter, is Rings of Power, up until now, so far, we haven't seen the last 2 episodes, it doesn't really have anything to say about the human condition.
No, it doesn't.
It's missing a humanity. So the question is, Cliff, has AI already been put to use in Rings of Power, and that's why it feels so bland?
Oh, my goodness. That is a question that I cannot answer. Although I am intrigued by you positing that question, but I could not possibly have an answer
And
for
I
that.
cannot take credit that someone in our Discord presented that theory. Not theory, presented that question. Was AI used on the scripts of Rings of Power after the writers turned them in, and then the pandemic happened, and then the writers could not go to set, and writers weren't involved during production, as is normal, and the writers went on strike because of it, and the writers did not have a full room. They had a mini room, and then someone at Amazon with a $1 billion budget said, run the, maybe, did they say, run those scripts through the AI, and let's make this a more universal show. And the script that came out is devoid of that humanity. And I feel, I really believe, and I've said this on the show even before we started talking about AI, there's something missing in Rings of Power about, I don't know, interpersonal communication. They talk in platitudes at each other, not with each other. You know,
sometimes they do. Sometimes they do.
There's just a core humanity.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. This is a very interesting speculation. Very interesting, but I have no basis. I have no basis of making any conclusive statements about this at all. But I am conclusively saying that we have outworn the patience of our chat. Everybody is begging to move on from this subject and move and talk about episode 6 of The Rings of Power.
Okay. Let's
think about this now. And I still want to call out to the folks who rep and manage Andy Serkis. I want to reach out to you folks and say, let's encourage Andy to come and talk with us, and let's have a big meeting, a nice conversation, and talk about the use of the tools that
even
they will
if
be
it's
using
privately. You want to be informed
in AI terms. I think it'd be very interesting. But yeah, I think that would be an interesting conversation to have with Andy, because the press might be wrongly representing Andy Serkis as advocating for a lot of generative AI work, while other people are extremely cautious about it because they don't want real human artists to lose their real human jobs and that organic quality of humanity that people bring to their work in the artistic field. So I'm intrigued by this, but perhaps it is time.
It's time. Yeah, let's talk about
that we
the show.
Talk about the show,
the official,
The Rings of Power.
That's the yellow check mark. So that's the official Amazon account for the Rings of Power on Prime, and it's quoting. That's Anatar, obviously quoting Middle Earth. If Galadriel said yes, and it's a bunch of happy elves.
Oh gosh, what? Goodness, what is that about? What is that about?
Let's see what else has the Lord of the Rings on Prime has retweeted. How we doing around the world, Shilmarils?
That's funny. That's really funny. Well, episode 6 brought us.
Oh, look at this tweet. Amazon, don't be afraid and continue to push the Galadriel agenda with full force. In return, we will fight under your banner, and each of us will take on 10 whiny dude bros to slay. And Amazon MGM Studios, the official account with the yellow checkmark, says, you're doing Eru's work. So.
That's cute, but I don't you know what?
Galadriel is canon to the show. Thank you, Amazon.
It is, and that is for better or for worse. Because there's a lot of people, including
better.
my dear friend, Tea with Tolkien, Caitlin, and a lot of other folks, you know, like Daily Rings of Power on Twitter, lots of great content creators. They are all in. They're all in on that Galadriel. But I do not ship Galadriel. I never did.
Well,
I would prefer.
Payne did. The showrunners did. So you better get on board.
That's fine. No, I don't need to get on board. I can quietly simmer. I can sit here and enjoy the better aspects of season 2 instead of wallowing in something from 2 years ago that I didn't enjoy. So let's talk about season 2 right now, episode 6. What an interesting episode this was.
Well, let's
right
look
up
at
to
this.
the point of absolute warfare coming to the doorstep of Ost Inithil in Eregion. War, absolute war. As Aragorn told Theoden, it is here. War is here, whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not.
What'd you think of the more mithril that Anatar found?
Hey, Paul. Welcome to the chat, Paul. And hey, Taffy. It was so good to see you, Taffy, at the picnic. It was so lovely to see you. This little moment is not Mithril. We're inside this illusion, the illusion that Sauron has put inside Celebrimbor's brain. That is Celebrimbor holding what looks to be like a glass vial container of mithril, and Anatar has said it's been ground to a powder and used 1/9 share for every ring that you're about to make. You know what? That's his blood. It's his blood from when he cut his hand from the scene before, just like they show in that tweet. It is definitely not real mithril.
Daily ROP says, yeah, dwarves deny
Wow.
Sauron more mithril when they see him cutting his finger, and in the dream
Yep,
he gives mithril
he's right.
powder. Amazon
so right.
official says, how else do you make subservient Nazgul?
Do you know what? Finrod has suggested, and that was an early theory. Finrod 84 in the chat says he probably stole it after he killed one of the dwarves and took it. And this is intriguing to me that it's not real mithril at all, and Celebrimbor has been deeply fooled by a profound mental illusion. That's what's happening. And
Cliff,
I like that Daily ROP found out this.
Talk to me about
Yeah.
this official Amazon account. Should we read anything into it? Does the Amazon Twitter account have any insight to McPain's plans? What? This is huge.
Well,
Is it not?
it's kind of huge. It's kind of huge because the official account, which is not really the mouthpiece of Patrick or JD, it's just someone in the marketing department, not even connected to Patrick or JD. But it is really interesting. They're making direct narrative comments. That is interesting. I agree.
Have you ever considered that the Nazgul are under Sauron's control because of his blood?
Yep. Fascinating concept, isn't it?
Is this an original idea from the show? Or is this
It's an original idea from the show.
Okay.
But it has its roots in witchcraft and magic that has been presented, ritual magic, that has been presented in the Western sphere of narrative storytelling since time immemorial. Blood, as you know, is supposed to stay inside your body at all times, with the exception of biological menstruation that happens. This is the only time when blood leaves your body, and it's okay. Magic, therefore, and rules of ritual magic have for centuries now been written around bloodletting, or the release of blood willingly from a victim or from a participant in the ritual. And that type of storytelling has been around, I think, since the dawn of oral history and oral storytelling that's been handed down. So it is not surprising to me at all. And it's been adapted into many pagan and Wiccan spiritual systems. And it's been spoken about through, witchcraft stories and stories of wizards and sorcerers throughout the Dark Ages. It's just a really specific use of blood to confer power from the individual into the spell that they are casting. It's an instrument of magic as old as the hills. So it doesn't surprise me.
Here's another official post from Amazon MGM Studios. Quote, of course Sauron is obsessed with her.
Hold on.
No one will reveal whether that was folly or wisdom. Sauron, he knows my mind. And I know his. I will not stop until he is destroyed.
Of course Sauron is obsessed with her. Cliff, is Amazon official accounts hinting at something in the next 2 episodes?
Possibly. That could probably be the reason why they said it. Yes. There's a strong probability that they're saying something. Back to the chat. Cliff, did Sauron have the power of being able to create full-on other worlds in someone's mind. I think they took liberty with that power. Well, yes, and in fact, that's been a point of contention for a couple of years now, is the type of liberties that they have taken with exploring, these characters and the power that they wield over one another. So it's just as likely as anything else when you're looking at it from outside that he's not creating a real entire VR. It's not like Sauron is making a virtual reality for the person. He's creating a temporary hallucination to get his point across, and he does it. It's a temporary hallucination that doesn't last more than a few minutes. It's not like Celebrimbor went wandering out across the river and into the army that Adar has right across the riverbank. It was just a temporary illusion, but it served its use entirely. It served its use.
All right, Cliff, let's talk about the most controversial part of episode 6.
Okay.
And
now, this is controversial to me, too, because it feels like we're mystery boxing back in season 1 again.
How do you mean?
I think that by this time, by episode 5, I really would have thought that Tom Bombadil would have stopped with the enigmatic speech and would have just given a name and said, you know what? Let us give you a name that's proper for you. I'm going to give you a name. And that would have helped a great deal to arrive at who the stranger is. And it's also strange to me that the Dark Wizard, played by Kieran Hines, has been kept off stage for several episodes in a row. And the last thing that character said was, I'm going to personally deal with this. I'm coming with you, and we're going to ride and go deal with this together. And he's still off stage. And the identity of the stranger is being prolonged and prolonged and prolonged as this mystery box. And I really thought we would have gotten somewhere by now. But that's just one man's opinion. That's all.
All right, so your first frustration is they just won't give us what we need to start enjoying the show and really appreciating the storyline. Like, it's enough with the games. Tolkien didn't play with mysteries. He didn't. And there's interviews with Christopher Tolkien and Priscilla Tolkien telling the world that Tolkien didn't write mysteries. He wasn't interested in playing mystery games at all, ever.
I agree. Agreed. And we've been saying this 2 years ago. We're saying it still now. And right, I agree that the story as a piece of television entertainment, it can be so much more entertaining when you are giving the information full on and letting the characters struggle with it. Don't make the people sitting in their living room struggle with it. Let the characters on screen struggle with where they're trying to get and how they're trying to change and the goals and aspirations that they're struggling to meet. Why is it we have to sit here and debate week after week after week? Well, maybe he's a grand elf. Maybe he's a blue wizard. I don't know. I'm at my wit's end with the mystery boxing.
Yeah,
but
you know what show does it exactly right? The Penguin. The first episode of The Penguin is incredible.
How was that? I haven't seen it yet.
It gives you all the information you need, and it just gives you the information, and the fun of the show is watching other characters find out the information that you, the viewer, already know.
That's dramatic irony. You know it. That's what dramatic irony is. And is that not why all the fans are tripping so hard and loving the Anatar-Celebrimbor relationship? Look at it. Look at it for what it is. Season 2 is a step up, a real delicious improvement over season 1. But why? Here's the easy answer. Dramatic irony. Anatar and Celebrimbor are on screen together, and we're watching this poor character stumble through so much while not knowing that he's being manipulated.
Not knowing what we know. Not knowing what we know.
What we know, yeah. So if you want the Gandalf Blue Wizard / Meteor Man, if you want the Stranger storyline to also be elevated to the successful level of the Anatar Celebrimbor storyline, then by now we should have already established that chunk of the story,
Okay.
so that we can go with it. So we
All right.
can go with
All right.
it.
So that was issue number 1 with this. Issue number 2. This line. Well, let's get into the dialogue first.
Okay.
Tom Bombadil doesn't borrow, steals and inverts actual dialogue from Gandalf in Fellowship of the Ring. And I want your opinion, because I don't know how to feel about this. But whereas Bombadil here is like your friend or your destiny, and Bombadil gives a whole speech that's ripped right from Gandalf's mouth in Fellowship of the Ring. I took issue with it for 2 reasons. One, it feels borrowed rather than invented. I feel like it almost feels
That's
like
fair. That's fair to say.
It feels like AI. It feels like someone typed in AI, "Hey, give Tom Bombadil an emotional speech," and the AI took Fellowship of the Ring, rearranged some words, and spit it back out. And that's what AI does. It doesn't create from whole cloth. AI only takes what exists and gives you a fractured version of it. And that's what we got here with this speech.
Well, that's a speculation. That's a weird speculation, but we'll see. Maybe. The Crawling Chaos in the chat says, until episode 6, I had also considered that Gandalf / the Stranger would go back to Old Man Ironwood and ask him politely. But I guess not. Yeah, that's what I was expecting to happen. I was kind of thinking that he would go and talk to and that is not an Ent. Old Man Ironwood is a Huorn. And the Huorns are the trees that are animate. They're not full Ents. They're just trees, like at the end of Helm's Deep. They all arrive and suck up and absorb the orcs, the Uruk-hai, that are retreating from Helm's Deep. And the Huorns destroy them all. We see that in the movie. Well, it would have been amazing if the Stranger had gone up to this Huorn and said, I apologize. I need to develop a relationship with this Middle Earth, and I want to start with you. Will you please loan me a branch, some of your personal power, so that I can be connected to this Middle Earth in a real way? That would have been a really Tolkien-esque and interesting scene for the Stranger to go through. Hello, I'm going to give you a star. Special gold star for the Crawling Chaos for that. In fact, he gets 3 little gold stars.
What did you think as an author of The People's Guide to J.R.R. Tolkien and knee deep in this stuff? What did you think about seeing Gandalf's speech transposed into another character? Does it ruin Gandalf in the Third Age now that it's like, oh, Gandalf didn't think of that himself? He's just quoting his master.
No, it doesn't ruin anything. It doesn't ruin anything. It just lacks inspiration. It feels kind of rote, you know? I guess it just lacks inspiration. But every time they do these big Peter Jackson callbacks, that's when I stop and think, okay, I mean, that's there for the reason of being a recognizable callback for the movie fans. And I would have preferred if they had differentiated themselves. Like, we're over here, hey, look at it this way. The Rings of Power has already proudly put its flag on the hill and said, we're doing our own thing over here. Don't worry about us. Don't worry about those other 6 films. We're happily doing our own thing over here, and we hope that you guys can absorb and accept it.
But that's not happening.
As us doing our own thing. And it undercuts that. That's exactly my point. It undercuts that particular stance of the production, saying we want to do our own thing, and yet they keep hardcore aligning themselves back into somebody else's verbal dialogue in such a recognizable way. It doesn't seem as inspired as it would be to come up with your own original powerful dialogue. That
what did you think, Cliff? What did you think of this particular quote here? Oh man, I pressed the wrong button.
No, okay, bring it up.
Your friend or your destiny. Tom Bombadil takes Gandalf's speech and flips it on the script and basically says, "Let your friends die, dude. Your destiny is to save the world."
Isn't this really close to the Star Trek dialogue that is so famous from Mr. Spock when he's dying and says the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one? And that's a big, like, Gene Roddenberry moment for me. And I kind of felt that they were pulling in on that. That's from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Is this
You know,
true to Tolkien?
yeah.
My question to you is there anything in Tolkien's writings where Tolkien himself says the greater good is more important than the familiar, the friends in your family?
I don't know. I don't know about that. It's Professor Tolkien more looks at individual sacrifices that are made, and he calls it the long defeat. The long defeat is this Catholic concept, and it is probably, it's really visible in Tolkien's writing and his narrative structures when you recognize it and it's there. And it's the idea of continuing to fight the good fight, even though you might lose. But it ties into Samwise's big monologue at the end of The Two Towers. There's still something green and good in this world, and it's worth fighting for. And I bet you those lines were written by Philippa. I bet you any amount of money Philippa Boyens wrote that dialogue for Sean Astin, and it really beautifully encapsulates this theological and narrative conceptualization that we have, fighting the long defeat. It's really interesting. But hey, this is where we're at.
What do you think of Aravandi's
It's really great to
comment?
see so many people in the chat. You guys are beautiful. You guys in the chat are the most beautiful people.
So what do you
the
think
world.
about
You're the best.
Aravandi
You
saying
guys are the
she
best.
heard a rumor that the stranger's staff is in the Stour village, and so his friends and his destiny are tied together?
That would be convenient.
Is it convenient?
That'd be convenient.
Is it too on the nose?
It's a bit on the nose. Well, it's kind of like, all right, no spoilers for the new Beetlejuice film, but when Astrid turns to her mom and says, "What happened to the Maitlands? Why don't we see their ghost?" And Winona Ryder says, "Well, they've gone on to the great beyond. They found a loophole." And Astrid looks at her and says, "How convenient." And then they just move right on and pass it by. I mean, that's it, and that's supposed to be a meta joke to Tim Burton fans. You're like, okay, that's a convenient way just to scooch out of it and not have the Maitlands show up. But no, you're right. I get that. I get.
All right.
That
So
is,
my next question to you, Cliff,
it's a concept.
is you've already advised that you do not believe that Tolkien ever had a character choose destiny over family quite starkly like this.
No,
Let me
not
ask you
quite
this.
such a
Does
binary
Tom-
choice. Not like this. No.
Okay, next question. Does this whole speech and dialogue feel like Tom Bombadil?
Some of it does. Some of it does.
So that Gandalf's speech feels right in the mouth of Tom. Yeah?
Well, don't you think that they're trying to show us and teach us that the stranger is Gandalf? Don't you think that these callbacks to the previous
But
dialogue
they've already done that. It's like beating a dead horse that they haven't even alived yet.
That's right.
They don't need to do this. Stop doing this.
That's what I'm saying. It makes the continuous mystery boxing unnecessary. We agree. Wow, you and me, Justin, we're in agreement. How about them apples? It's happening. Okay.
Is it true to Tom to just disappear like that, like Batman?
That was a weird thing. No, that doesn't happen. That was a whole Batman thing, and I don't know about that. But
is
it not possible? If he is not human, and let's go with the conventional wisdom that he is the personification of nature itself, then why not? Why wouldn't he appear like the sudden wind? The wind suddenly appears and disappears and it's gone. That might be okay, but
does Tom have the same powers of Sauron? We just saw Sauron in the same episode create this fake world around Celebrimbor. Can Tom create this fake world around?
Tom is in no way interested in demonstrating that kind of power and never would. No. He has zero interest. That's why in the book, come on, we're going to talk the book now, not the original film. But in the Fellowship of the Ring, the book, during the Council of Elrond, everyone, well, not everyone, someone says, why not just give the ring to Tom Bombadil? It doesn't affect him. It won't corrupt him. It's not going to turn him into an evil wraith. And Gandalf says, no, he has no mind for it. He would forget it the next day. He would drop it somewhere in a creek and he'd forget about it because he's not connected to these concerns of this world in that way. And it would be absolute terrible idea to let Tom be the ring bearer and guard it and keep it secret, because he doesn't give a poop. He would just be like, I don't care.
What you just described is not this Tom. This Tom is so obsessed with destiny and saving Middle Earth. What you just described is the opposite of this character, and maybe that's why I feel disconnected about this. You just described Tom as described in Fellowship of the Ring as he has no time. He doesn't care. He would just toss it in a river and forget about it. This Tom is telling Gandalf, yo, forget your friends. You have to save Middle Earth. I'm very much invested in this Sauron thing.
Well, in that case, our Tom Bombadil that we're witnessing in Rings of Power is an interesting departure in that regard.
Can't they get anything right? Just do one thing from the books
that's
accurately.
Not fair.
Please, just one thing. Is anything in this show 100% from the books? Is anything?
I don't know if it's worth your time to be so categorically negative in saying that. And I would not make such sweeping categorizations.
The frustrations. We got two episodes to turn this around.
I'm not with you on that.
Okay.
No, they've got a lot right. They've got a lot right. But wait a minute.
They got a lot right. I agree.
No.
But name one thing that is perfect from the books.
We might be looking at it wrong with the framing of this question. No, I think the framing of the question might be a bit off, my dear boy.
No, it's not. It's not because when Fellowship of the Ring came out, everyone said that's the Shire I've imagined in my head all these years. That's the Shire. Everyone said when Fellowship of the Ring came out, that is what the book is. When The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey came out, the first hour, everyone said that's what's in the book. That's 100% book accurate. Is there anything in this show that you can point to that, just like those movies, where that's 100% book accurate? No changes.
Yeah, there are several things here and there that you can point to, but that context as a whole doesn't really hold up.
Just tell me one thing.
I'm not avoiding the question. I don't think it's helpful to judge the show on its merits of, is this lore accurate or is it not? It is much more helpful to enjoy and observe the show for what it is. It is a pastiche of different ideas and narrative elements that are cobbled together to make a commercial scale entertainment. It is a commercial entertainment. It is not meant to be a litmus test for whether the lore is right or not. And that really helps to assuage your fears and some of your complaints. It really will. If you take that mental approach, Justin, you'll have a much more relaxed time with this show, and you'll enjoy it more for what it is. Like I am. I'm enjoying it for what it is, while I recognize this show will never be useful as a tool for explaining the accuracy of the lore or the representation of the lore. That's not what this show intends to be. This show intends to be a beautifully constructed, beautifully produced entertainment that plays a riff. It plays an interesting a riff, a modified approach, what you'd call in music composition. It's called, you would call that a theme. You're building out a theme.
So it's not a
And
remix. This isn't a remake or a remix. It is literally sampling.
It's like
it's music sampling. They're
I'm
sampling Tolkien in many different ways, like so many hip hop artists do. They sample classic music in new, innovative ways. Daft Punk did it. You know, you would not recognize any of the songs.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Is that what you're saying? That this is just a whole new pastiche of sampling of Tolkien?
Yeah, you could call it a potpourri. It's an interesting mix of what looks like different elements that might not work together, but you blend them together and it suddenly becomes its own beautiful little thing. But we know honestly that the show is not reliable as lore reference material. The show is much more reliable at introducing ground level concepts. And we're talking introductory, foundational concepts. This is a point in time in history after the defeat of Morgoth. Sauron is at this point in history trying to either redeem himself or take control of the world the way he wants to set things in order. Well, it barely takes a few minutes for Sauron to abandon his rehabilitation tour, and he goes right back into being Sauron himself. And the show, as a pastiche of mixed, sometimes they're incongruous ideas, but it is introductory level storytelling that brings you to the basic understanding. Sauron is no longer the under the Morgoth shadow. Sauron is trying to establish his own monumental self and to put things in Middle-earth according to his personal desires. And in order to do that, he dupes a lot of people, not Galadriel. I'm still going to hold on to that caveat. My biggest caveat emptor from season 1 is that Galadriel never got duped. But sure as hell, Celebrimbor got duped, and all of the elven smiths in Eregion, they get duped as well. So, you know, the show is more successful in introducing baseline concepts of this narrative is Sauron doing all these horrible things to people so that he can create a larger, structured, evil plan of rings of power. And it causes havoc in Middle-earth. And that's basically where the show is going. And they're doing a good job of that, at least baselining that, okay? But you're never going to talk to me about the show and say, the show succeeds because it's lore accurate and therefore it represents a better piece of storytelling. They don't care. They don't have to worry about that. And we know that. At this point, we know that they don't care. They're doing their own thing and they're proud to do their own thing. But they are successful at dropping in really specific First Age names, references to the Silmarillion, relationships between elves and men are even mentioned, you know, and those never worked out, did they? So they're really successful at bringing in concepts. And in a larger scale, for it being a commercial entertainment, it might be more effective that way for bringing in ground level non-book readers. And that's my arrival point. I think that this entire show is not made for the hardcore readers. I think it's more made for the non-book readers who've never read Unfinished Tales, never would bother reading the Silmarillion, but now that they're watching the show and they understand all these basic concepts of what Sauron is doing and what his past was and the struggles of the elves and men and dwarves, it is much, much more successful at that level of bringing in the newbies and bringing in the people who are not all that attached to the book lore as if it were a systemic, you know, continuous litmus test of whether the show is successful or not. I think we would do better in understanding the show in these outside terms.
All right.
Rant off.
Next
Rant
scene.
off.
What did you think about Disa calling the bats like Batman again with the Batman thing?
Oh, that was an unusual choice. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Clever.
I would not have thought of that.
It was clever. And I don't know why people are not liking that.
Well, because
I,
dwarves have never been so attuned to nature. They're more attuned to the earth, not to the birds and beasts. It looks as if Disa is doing something that Radagast would have done. You
hmm.
know what I mean? That's why it seems a bit different, because they are tied to the mountains, to the soil, to the rock and the minerals and the dirt and the gems and the precious stones. They're not tied to the beasts and the birds in such a real specific way. So it's why it stands out a bit, really.
Uh, so people have a valid reason not to that like to be stunned by the scene. Like it's so not dwarven like, but everything going on in Khazad-dûm is not dwarven like. Like the place is in chaos. Crazy things are happening. The light beams, closed up, and earthquakes are happening, and like everything's topsy turvy. All right, the other.
Yeah, well, little bits here and there. Like I said, do you know the reason why I looked it up in the dictionary to make sure it was the right word? But when I settled on the word pastiche, it's because the word pastiche, as defined in the dictionary, is that elements, sometimes incongruous elements, are combined to make a new thing. And that's why it's interesting use of that word for me. And a lot of Rings of Power might seem incongruous, but within the world building that they're doing, it works on its own terms.
All right, the other big scene in episode 5, Cliff, I want to know your opinions on Galadriel and Adar's dinner. I like the scene, first off, because it's true to Peter Jackson's movies. We see orcs do have a menu. Orcs have plates and serving dishes and silverware, and they have a menu. So when
they have a menu. Okay,
in Two Towers, when he says, "Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys," that meme can die now. It was funny for a while. It was funny for 20 years. But McPain have just validated that joke as in a full-on dinner scene. The question I have for you, Cliff, is in this long dialogue scene, when did Galadriel name her ring? Because she just speaks it plainly. This is Nenya. It's my ring. Like, when did that happen? What does the word Nenya mean?
I do not immediately remember when the 3 Elven Rings were given names. If anyone in the chat knows, did it happen in the final sequence at the end of season 1, last episode 8, season 1? Did it happen then or not at all? I don't know if those rings were ever given.
Look, I watched the
names.
last 2. I watched 4 and 5 2 or 3 times the last couple weeks because I've been bored, stuck at home. I don't think the rings get named. And like, if the chat room can correct us, great. But my rant is, in a show called Rings of Power, shouldn't we get the entire detailed history of the Rings of Power, including how she came up with the name Nenya? Like, where is that scene? Where is that dialogue? When did this happen? In the Rings of Power, it's the show.
Okay, I get it. But the thing with Tolkien, the way of his approach was all about linguistic concerns. There was always about
put it on screen. Don't let it happen off screen.
I agree with you, and I'm supporting you. I'm supporting you. I'm supporting you on this.
We're circle back into support.
I'm supporting you on this. I'm not fighting you on this.
Okay.
Remember when we were talking about the Mordor transition on that lower third, which was really an upper third. It was an upper third. Okay.
Anyway.
And I told you a few weeks ago that it would have been far more interesting to have Adar talk to one of his Uruks and say, "There's a language reason for us to name it Mordor," and the Uruk chieftain would have said, "Why?" And Adar could have said, "Because the language of the elves is the dominant one that will write the history of Middle-earth that will always be remembered. So we're going to use a word in their language that will always be remembered. Mordor, the Black Land." And instead of using a graphic, you could have had dialogue that supported a linguistic concern of Tolkien. And really, I'm going to stand on that now with why weren't the rings named in dialogue amongst the characters.
It's called the Rings Rings of Power.
get it.
Do you
I
guys
get it.
know
But
what the show is that
we
you're
have-
making? It's not mystery
Shit.
boxing,
You're
Harfoots,
funny.
and Gandalf in the desert. And why is Tom Bombadil in
Justin,
a dry, arid land? Like, it's
Slow
the
your
Rings
roll.
of Power. This is what we want.
Slow your roll.
We
buddy.
want the Rings of Power. We want
Slow
the
your
Rings
roll
of
for
Power.
a minute.
Okay.
I want to understand why Galadriel, and this is a narrative bump in the road that I'm not sure I can get over. Maybe JD or Patrick can come talk with us in a lovely interview, and we'll sit down and they can explain this to me, because I want to understand why. And I'm backing you up in the chat. It's RJ McReady. Is it McReady? RJ in the chat actually said the thing that is most important. I don't think that Galadriel had an end game here that is logical or understandable. She has the dinner table conversation with Adar, and she agrees for a moment that the two of them should confer with each other, and she makes this amazing disclosure. I do not know why Galadriel made this disclosure about her ring and where it was and what she was saying and doing, and the fact that Elrond was coming with another army with Gil-galad right on their heels. But what was the end game there? And maybe Justin or people in the chat can help me understand what this is. Why would Galadriel
I know what happens
ever
in the next 2 episodes, so
would Galadriel ever finish a dinner table conversation with Adar and say, okay, I'm going to work with you and your Uruks, and we're going to go and destroy Sauron now? And why would she immediately, even implicitly, with it not even being spoken, because Adar did not mention it, he did not mention it as a negotiating deal. He did not say, I will kill Sauron, and I will leave all the other elves alone. Adar didn't say that. He didn't say, let's make a deal about me saving the lives of all the elves, and I'll save Celebrimbor's life, and I'll save the elven smiths, and I will spare the lives of all the elves. Galadriel didn't even hear that point of negotiation come up. It didn't happen. So why was she willing to disclose information to somebody who was just going to go in with an army and destroy all of her elven friends in the kingdom of Eregion anyways? So I'm really scratching my head about this, wondering why they wrote it this way. I don't get it.
You and me both, because the character
the
character as written in the show has spent the last 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 hours not sharing information. She keeps her secrets. She doesn't tell her lieutenant on the Snowy Mountain all the plans. She doesn't tell Celebrimbor and Elrond about Sauron that she knows. She holds everything in. That's her character, and to see the repercussions of keeping secrets is interesting in the show. And then we get to this dinner scene, and she's just like, blah. Let me tell you everything. Like,
I don't get it.
I don't get it. It betrays the character as written.
Well, if Adar had been saying things, whether they were lies or not, and he could have the bandwidth to lie to her face just to get what Adar wants out of her, if Adar had said, I will spare the lives of everyone within your kingdom if you let me go in and assassinate Sauron, single-handed, that wasn't part of the conversation. So why was Galadriel ready to make a deal and disclose all that information? Oh man, I don't get it.
Anonymous
I
girl
want
asked,
someone to explain
I was
it
a
to me.
bit confused why Adar
okay.
let Halbrand go if he knew that it was Sauron. He doesn't know Halbrand is Sauron. Remember, Halbrand says, I know where Sauron is. Remember, that was the trickery. Halbrand says to Adar, I know where Sauron is. I can get you to him. That's it. Galadriel doesn't know that Sauron has taken the form of Anatar, right? She hasn't met Anatar yet. So, Cliff,
are you sure she doesn't know that? Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she doesn't
Maybe
know?
she does. Maybe she senses it. Maybe she's had a vision. Anyway, Cliff, do you think
Maybe she's had a
do you
vision,
think
but
our
did the
frustrations-
showrunners show us the vision? Did we see Galadriel put on her ring
We did not.
and suddenly have that moment, that telekinesis, or that foresight, the vision of a foresight? And Elrond had the gift of foresight that may have been tied to his future possession of one of the three rings. That one ring with the blue sapphire that Gil-galad, the High King, is wearing, it's called Vilya. Well, it ends up being worn by Elrond through the Third Age, as we all know. And that ring might have a lot to do with Elrond's capacity for
Cliff,
having foresight.
what did you think of the dialogue in this scene where Adar looks at Galadriel and says, Halbrand is Sauron, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Yeah, he says Halbrand is Sauron, but he doesn't say nobody at that dinner table scene knows the name Anatar. So
Right.
none of them know that. They don't say that
But
name.
she
Okay.
knows he's Sauron. So Adar looks at her and says, Halbrand is Sauron, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about I loved the concept of this scene. As I said before, I love the concept of the scene. I love the framing of the scene. It's well dressed. It's the $1 billion is on every frame. You can see it visually, and the music sounds amazing. But it just the writing betrays the character as she's been established over the last 15 hours. And
Really?
It just everything.
Okay.
It's just so frustrating that I can't get through any episode without just finding like some glaring, like, oh, that's just wrong. Like, oh, you're on the right track. You're on the right track. Oh, you broke the toy. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. You didn't break the toy, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like just stick to your guns on this. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe
Look,
there's too many
I have to
producers.
admit-
Maybe there's too many voices in the kitchen. Let them cook. Let them all cook. No, you need a singular vision. You need someone strong enough to have a singular vision to know what voices to let in and keep out when you're putting together a show.
I have to admit, and it's not the first time I've said this, I find as many things in this show delightful, really enchanting and beautiful and really, really entertaining, as often I sometimes find things that are quite daft and I don't get it. So it's kind of like this and that. And like, you take it all together, and like a good Buddhist, you take the best and the worst and you put it all together and you make the best of it. You take the good and bad and you make the best of it. That's what you got to do.
I still believe
That's
in
life.
Riverdale. In Rivendell, I'm still on that train. It's just I'm not getting it. I didn't get it from Haladriel, and then there were a bunch of fan debates for 2 years. Like, Haladriel isn't real. Yes, it is. It's in the show. It's exactly what I asked for, and they give it to me. But they backed off of it. I hope that when they get to the courtship of Elrond and Celebrian, we get the full relationship treatment.
Celebrian. Try it as Celebrian. Yeah.
I have theories on Celebrian, but we'll talk about that after the season's over. There's two more episodes left. Next week, we'll be done with season 2. That's it.
Let's talk
Next
about
week is the
Numenor.
last episode. Oh, Numenor.
You're right.
That's
There's 2 more. There's 2 more episodes. You're right. Yes, I agree.
I don't even
Julia,
want to
thank
talk
you,
about
Julia.
Numenor. I'm so checked out of
Let's
that
talk about
storyline.
Numenor.
I have nothing nice to say about Numenor.
You don't want to talk about the sea monster?
I'll make you
the whole
full
thing.
screen. I'll make you full screen because I hate everything about Numenor. They're just doing it all wrong. Anyway,
Oh,
floor
wow.
is yours.
Oh, the wonder of Tolkien. Did I just do a George Takei? Did I just go, oh my? Did I just do a whole George Takei? I didn't know I did that. Okay, the screen is mine. The discussion about Numenor gets tricky because my main it's a love letter visually. Things that are in Numenor are particularly beautiful sets. I'm really interested in the teal blue and the orange. The costumes, there's always a color of blue and orange that I see, really interesting mixtures of colors and costumes. I've got nothing to complain about in terms of art department, art direction, set design, and the visual effects. I think Numenor is lovely to look at, but every time someone in the background opens their mouths and they start crowd chanting something, I'm like, oh, it's the citizens of Springfield from The Simpsons. The crowd of Numenorians has an unfortunate, I would say it's an unfortunate pattern of having to appear like the mindless mob that always just parrots itself. You're in any school board meeting in any Simpsons episode. You're at the meeting. Remember the famous monorail episode? Everybody remembers the famous monorail episode. But there's a quality of mob thinking and mob thinking behavior which elicits dislike from me, because I see that the people of Numenor and their great wisdom and their advancement as a human species, as that section of the Edain, is just really um um it's just it lacks that quality of being the most suitable representation of Numenorians, because they all act like citizens of Springfield, the Simpsons style, where mind hive, instant mind hive takes over, and I don't even know what to do with it. I mean, I have this honest to God love and hate relationship with Numenor, and I wish it weren't that way. This cockamamie idea of there being ancient texts that say you're going to have a trial by sea monster. It's like, oh, when did anybody have a trial by sea monster thing in Numenorian history? I mean, the presence of the sea dragon as a one-off creature early in season 1 was visually very interesting. A little scary, a little bit bonkers, but it was really interesting. But now we have a cultural, societal imprint of the relationship of Numenorians with the sea dragon that Tolkien never wrote about, and I don't get it. I don't quite get it. Yeah, so everybody in the chat is here with me. Oh, Laswen, Flame Tree, you're thinking the exact same thing. It takes me back to the Skeksis fighting each other for the scepter and the throne with a trial by stone. Trial by stone! You know, that whole thing? Okay, now we've got trial by sea dragon and
Selob.
funny. But trial by Selob. That's fun, Paul. Paul, you're very fun. Wonder of Tolkien says, I'm glad we're in Middle Earth, but I've watched other shows and there's something off when I watch these episodes. Is it the writing? Trying too hard? Is it too rushed? Not sure.
We talked a little bit about that in today's show.
Well,
It's the writing, and it's the choices that they make that affect the character that they've established.
The best parts about Numenor are still yet to be fully developed. And in episode 5 last week, we had this excellent dialogue from Farazon, who is talking about the ban of the Valar and how they're not supposed to go to Tall Eressëa, and certainly not go to Valinor, the Holy Land beyond, which is this representation of
We saw
paradise,
in episode 1.
or yeah, So I find so much to appreciate and I really love about this show, Rings of Power. And then I find some things that are just so oddball, I can't quite figure it out. But in essence, the Numenorian storyline is now going to thoroughly, strongly branch out between the faithful and the king's men. And it is probably a benefit to us because we're way more scholarly, all of us book nerds who've been deeply absorbing the books all this time. It might be helpful for us to sit down with our newbie friends, pat them on the shoulder and say, we need to have a talk. about the faithful. So right after you watch Rings of Power with your buddies, you're hanging out with your friends, you're having a watch party, the best thing you can do, a good service to your fellow fans, is to just say, let's sit down and we'll have a little bit of a tutorial, and I'll discuss with you some of the realities of what they're loosely sketching out these ideas, but when they become more strongly and firmly drawn, the narrative will drive itself forward to an absolute big tragic conclusion that we're all waiting for. We're all waiting for it. So
All right. Well,
let's see
look,
how we get there.
And one of the goals of this show, Torn Tuesdays, and the reason that we've been doing it for 659 episodes, is we try to show share the diaspora of fan interest and reaction to everything new with Tolkien. And I have my own opinions, but our Discord had many people that are fully in love with, let's say, the Tom Bombadil stuff this season. And there were huge, wonderfully nuanced conversations and debates with me about the Bombadil stuff. And let me bring one up. One of our Discord members says, "Clever, these showrunners. Very clever. I found that this show is designed for analysis rather than reactions. It actually rewards you when you're willing to think it through."
Okay.
Cliff, but what you just described of like watch it with your friends and then pulling and then having a conversation about the faithful, that does not jive with what you told me just a few minutes ago, which is this show is a pastiche. So if you tell them all about the faithful and they don't see it in the show after they know about it, they're going to get disappointed because it's not in the show.
It has to be. It is incumbent upon the writers and the producers
right now.
Is it right
now?
It is deeply, deeply important for future seasons 3, 4, and 5, to dig in much more specifically into that narrative and give it the meat and potatoes that it needs. We're talking about foundational world building here. It has to be in there. It is absolutely important.
And it's
I would stress
currently missing.
it is critical. It is critical. Well, I mean, not just a casual couple of sentences. I mean, Air Farazan and his boy, Kemen, instead of just having a couple of one-off sentences, which is brilliant to introduce the concepts, but it has to be much more solidified. It has to gel.
All right.
And it can. They still can do it if they want.
Right. So here's a wonderful thread from Beric the Horse, part of the Unhinged Fellowship.
They're great. I love Beric the Horse. They're great. They're so great.
Who supports the Tom Bombadil stuff? He says, they say, I've seen a few others already talk about it, but let's re-examine the Tom and Stranger scene from episode 6 and compare it to the Gandalf and Frodo scene from Fellowship of the Ring. First, many and some are inverted here, giving both statements different meanings and conclusions. Many that die deserve life. Some that live deserve death. Many that live deserve death. Some that die deserve life. So they reversed that. He goes on to say, the consequences of each are different. Gandalf talks about the conundrum of if it's okay to kill someone to save the world. Tom talks about it as if it's okay to save one person even if it dooms the world. It's not the same type as who deserves to die versus live scenarios.
Okay. All right, I see. That's an interesting analysis. I hadn't thought about it. That's about semantics. That's about semantics.
Who are
you
to give it to them? Can you give it to them? He goes on to say, Tom is still teaching the stranger about his task. To become an Istar, a wise one, he needs to know how to weigh the needs of Middle-earth with his own feelings. That's very different from what Gandalf imparts on Frodo. Even the wisest cannot see all ends.
Well, Well,
I think someone
the
else pointed out its similarity to consequentialism versus utilitarianism, or even virtue ethics. For the stranger, it is a question of what is the right thing for him to do. For Frodo, it's a reminder to not lose himself to his emotions and focus what he can do.
Yes, Andrew, you're right. Andrew is completely right. They completely copied the Trial by Stone sequence with Elrond and Durin hammering those rocks in season 1. There was a complete, beautiful tip of the hat to the Dark Crystal. But onto the spiritual conversation, the wonder of Tolkien, and he has such a wonderful account through a very, very clear theological Christian lens in looking at Tolkien's works. And I deeply admire his account and his takes. I deeply admire his takes. It's not the theme of pity that Tolkien wanted to be in there. And the reason why having pity on Gollum or having pity on a creature who's so miserable, Frodo says he should have killed Gollum when he had the chance. And Gandalf says the pity of Bilbo may alter the fate of many. But this is connected to the idea of grace. Catholic, very Christian idea. Super J.R.R. Tolkien Catholicism embedded right in the DNA of the story in a wonderful way. Having pity for those wretched creatures who are having a really unfortunate time, whether they try to bring harm to you or not, out of their misguided attempts to get out of their own misery, but having pity achieves grace. And the reason why Middle-earth is saved when Frodo fails and Frodo cannot destroy the ring is because of that grace that Bilbo gave originally, and Frodo learns something from that. It's about that. It's about that concept.
Do you
And
agree?
if that's not in there, then I don't know what to tell you. It's got to be in there.
So what is the inversion? Is there a Catholic thing related to how Rings of Power does it? Every soul in Middle-earth is in peril. Will you abandon them to their doom? Versus Gandalf saying, do not be too eager to deal out death and judgment. Even the very wise cannot see all ends.
Right. I get it.
So what is
well,
the
let's
Catholic?
see what they do next.
I'm not up on my spiritual teachings. I understand what you just said about grace. Very Catholic thing, grace, grace, the pity of
I was not, caveat, I was not raised as Catholic. I was raised as a Methodist. As a child, I was completely raised as a Methodist.
So
and
where,
I figured,
what
I figured
is
things
Tom
out
doing
in this
here?
spiritual lessons I learned as a child. I figured those things out when I combined what I was reading as an 11-year-old, reading J.R.R. Tolkien, combined with what I was learning in Sunday school and learning in church. It all started to work for me, and I started to figure things out. Really, I did.
So what is Tom doing here? He's not doing grace. He's burning the friends. He's burning the Harfoots for the world.
He's challenging the stranger on a different axiom, on a different principle. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. And that's why it feels so different to people. It really does feel a bit different, but yeah, I get it.
Do you agree with our friends in Discord that say this is actually quite clever how they've done it?
Maybe. I think it's fine. I think it's fine, but it does seem a bit different. It really does. But I think it's fine. The challenge to me is, why is this character still mystery boxed? And we are nearly finished with the entire season 2, and the stranger is still being called the not Gandalf, or maybe Blue Wizard, maybe not Blue Wizard.
And
that's what we're still calling him. So,
final question for you, Cliff: is this the last time? Is this the last time we see Tom Bombadil? And if so, is this the best goodbye that Tom could do, which is
No,
give
I
Gandalf
would be
speech.
disappointed. I would be disappointed if that is the farewell of the Tom Bombadil character, and that would not be the way that I sent him off into the sunset. That's not the way I would do it. But nobody asked me.
Well, there you go. Well, that's Torn
If
Tuesday. We
can I
covered...
quote Gimli now? Can I please quote Gimli? If anyone were to ask me, which I note they have not, we're taking the long way round. Okay, anyways, I'm done.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, there it is.
Okay.
Episode 6. There are 2 more episodes. The next one is in just over 24 hours, midnight Pacific time on Amazon Prime. And then the following week is the final episode. So we will have a whole thing. As you heard at the top of the show, it seems that there are some influencers, maybe some of our own staffers, currently in New York doing some
Good
things.
gravy.
Asking some questions about with some people. So there might be some new content coming out from some of your favorite people pretty soon. But that's all we
It's
know.
very
We know as
exciting.
much as you. But it was great to catch up with everybody on Hobbit Day. It was great to see the Tales of the Shire game being played.
Yes, it was great to see that game being played.
And you know what? We
And-
forgot to mention it at the top of the show. Even though they gave us the demo, they pushed back the game until March 25th next year.
Good. Push the game back. Look, if you need to push the production back for the next Spider-Verse film, push the production back. The video game, take as long as you need, as long as you don't overwork your developers, don't overwork your animators. Please pay them properly and take as much time as you need to get the game where you need it to go. Take your time. I love that. That's great.
Final
I wanna give a
final predictions
Well-
on the last 2 episodes, Cliff. Do you think you don't think you think Tom's going to make another appearance? Do you think we've
I hope
closed
so.
up any of the storylines right now?
I hope so. There's a lot more to happen in Rune with the Kieran Hines character, the Dark Wizard, and there's stuff that has yet to happen. Do you want to make an easy prediction? Arondir, so beautifully portrayed by Ismael Cruz Cordova, Arondir is going to show up at the last minute and be a big Hail Mary, big surprise moment in the Battle of Eregion, and he might go toe-to-toe with Damrod. I think that Damrod, the Hill Troll, and Sauron are going to get face-to-face, and it's going to get really brutal, but I think Arondir is going to come in and change things. He's going to shake things up. Okay, that's my prediction. Thank you, everybody in the chat. I cannot thank you enough for being consistently creative and intelligent and very kind, really kind, and coming to talk with us and share all these interesting ideas and to debate and discuss. This has been a very fulfilling show, very satisfying indeed. Justin, thank you for pulling all the strings and pressing the buttons in the background. I can't get enough. Oh yeah, see, Anonymous Girl said, I completely forgot about Damrod. Well, he's been taken off screen for several episodes. You're meant to not think about him. Surprise, he's going to come in the battle scenes.
We need more episodes.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. You need to spin off
I agree. We
Numenor
need more
into
episodes.
its completely own show. You need the Harfoots to be its own show, and you just need more episodes. 16 episodes. I should be getting a taste of Damrod every other week because he's just so charming. Ah.
You better buy him a drink first, Justin. Okay, this is really wonderful. You guys are great to be here with us tonight. We're going to close the show because now we're at 2 hours and 14 minutes. Now, this was a really significant Torn Tuesday, and much love to all of you. You folks are great. Yeah, you're right, Julia. I cannot wait for this big battle. 2 episodes of intense battle scenes. So, everybody, take good care of yourselves. Be gentle with one another. We're going to be here next week, and we're going to talk more and get more analysis and more debate in a very spirited way. because we're a very spirited bunch of folks. Like I said earlier in this show, I'm a passionate man and I speak passionately sometimes, and that's just the way it is. I do welcome Andy Serkis to come to the family table and come have an interview with us. He can talk to us about his production ideas and the way he wants to implement AI into post-production. And I also want to encourage J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, since they're in between seasons right now. Why don't you folks come on to the table? We'll break bread together in fellowship, and we'll have a really good talk. It would be so delightful to dig in and get some of this good stuff going on here. Oh, you want a Miyazaki minute? Okay. I don't think I have a Miyazaki minute, but I will say this. Ghibli Fest is going on in North American theaters. They have been re-releasing every week magnificent re-releases of all the classic films from Studio Ghibli. And I've been seeing all the adverts for Howl's Moving Castle, my personal favorite. It is my all-time favorite Miyazaki film. It is an anti-war film locked away, hidden away inside a romantic fantasy, which is kind of like Bizarro land, but it's really an anti-war picture, and it's something that we need to consider right now. The pacifism and that worldview of Miyazaki is what we need right now. And I encourage everybody to look at your local theaters and look and see if the Ghibli Fest 2024 is in your local area. Go to the movie house and witness these movies on the big screen like you've never seen them before. That's your Miyazaki Minute. And now, I promise you guys, we're going to have a good time next Tuesday. We'll be here at the same bat time, same bat channel, with Disa calling the bats out of the cave. So we're going to have a wonderful Batman-centric show. Who knows? I'm going to have to catch up on The Penguin. Haven't seen it yet, but we'll see if it's really good. Bless you, Matt Reeves, and your Batman universe. That's really cool. You folks in the chat are the best thing that has happened to me in years. Couldn't do it without you, and I wouldn't want to do it without you. So I wish you all health and wealth and wonderful things, wonderful blessings to all of you. And now we say goodnight. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at QuickBeam2000 and look for more stories and wonderful news and bits on our main website, theonering.net. You can follow us on all social channels, the One Ring Net, take out the dot. You can follow us on everything. You better check out our Discord. It's really superb. Love it. Okay? I love you guys. I'm having too good of a time, but now all good things must come to an end. And so I say, as I usually do, good night and good luck. Or better yet, buenos noches y buena suerte. Bye-bye.